All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to be... All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be going over the team that we drafted for the BBR D-League. I'm not typically the biggest fan of draft analysis, but I did want to show off the team because I think it's a pretty cool team. And it's also the first BBR video that we're doing. So for any new people that might be coming in, feel free to stick around. We mainly do draft league content here, but we're trying to edit the videos a little bit more, see if we can make it a little bit more entertaining for you guys. And if you enjoy that type of stuff, obviously feel free to stick around. Like I said, leave a like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think about this team. And without any further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so before we get into the actual team, just a couple of things I think you guys should know going into the draft. There are 16 coaches in the D-League, but we were split into two pools of 8 coaches each. I was pick number 5 in the Violet division, even though it says 1 there. I was not pick number 1. I was pick number 5, and my whole strategy going into this was just like sort of pick the best thing that was there when it came to me. And at pick number 5, my main options were Qianpao or Dragonite. Reason I went with Dragonite over Qianpao is because Qianpao is obviously a stupid wall breaker. It doesn't really have switch-ins, but I feel like it's a very boring mon to build with because you're typically just going to be, you know, just a wall breaker. And I feel like Dragonite has more versatility. Qianpao is probably a better pick than Dragonite, even if we terrestrialize Dragonite, which we did. But I just feel like Dragonite gives me more freedom when it comes to team building, and it's just something that keeps me more engaged, and basically I just have more fun with mons like Dragonite. So that's why we went Dragonite over Qianpao. After the Dragonite pick, again, same basis, just pick whatever good mon was there. And I felt like the best mon on the board at the moment was Iron Bundle. Insanely good wall breaker. Water and ice with freeze dry just means that it's very difficult to switch into this thing as well. And I've played against it before, and yeah, it's pretty scary to try to switch into. Our third pick was Azumarril, and I mainly picked Azumarril because I think this thing is heavily underrated in the current meta. It was only 12 points, and I feel like the water fairy typing just checks so many of the good offensive mons that we have this gen, stuff like Qianpao, Chi-Yu, stuff like that. The good dark types are checked by Azumarril, so I think Azumarril is very underrated, and for 12 points, I felt like I just had to pick it in round 3 because it wasn't going to last any longer. Don't really mind having 2 water types with Iron Bundle because they do different things. One's physical, one's special, and in certain matchups I feel like offensively pressuring my opponent with 2 very strong water types is going to be very nice. After that, we went Tinglu. I needed a ground type, I needed some hazards, a good dark type as well. Tinglu is just fat as all hell, doesn't really die to anything in one hit. Has a really nice ability with the Vessel of Ruin, obviously lowering everything's special attack by 0.75, which just means that it's just able to stick around a lot more, and it has good hazard options, which is also something that Klefki has as my fairy type and my steel type. Now, steel types are very, very few and far between this gen. Like, unless you go for one of the top ones like Iron Treads or like Scissor or something like that, everything below that is just kind of meh. So I feel like Klefki was the best thing that was on the board there. Again, don't really mind having another fairy type because first of all, they don't really share any weaknesses, and second of all, again, they do completely different things. I feel like Klefki just pairs super well with Dragonite because obviously the Dragon Dance is real with it, and Klefki gets dual screens, it gets spikes. It did lose defog, which is a little bit meh, but still gives me speed control with Thunder Wave and stuff like that. So I feel like Klefki was a no-brainer pick here, and I feel like it's going to pair very well with the amount of setup options we have on this team. Next up, we got Rotom. I really wanted a ground immunity, and I wanted a good grass type as well. Obviously, Rotom losing defog as well and losing Pain Split makes it way less than ideal, but I felt like the typing was something I needed on this team. The Levitate ability is definitely nice, and it's just, you know, a good old reliable Pokemon that can be offensive, it can be defensive at any point in time. So I feel like Rotom was just a good pick here, and it was something that really fit the team pretty damn well. Next up is another mon that I think was extremely underrated in this particular draft because I believe it was only 7 points, but Gallade, with the new sharpness ability it got, is an insane wall breaker. Absolutely insane. Obviously, it doesn't have the best speed at only 80, which makes it a little bit less than ideal as a wall breaker, but if you're able to get this thing in safely, you can just punch through anything with Sacred Sword, with Psycho Cut, Leaf Blade, whatever it is. This thing has coverage out the butt, and it's just a really, really good strong wall breaker, and it has agility as well. So if you can get an agility up, then your opponent might be in a bad place. I guess that's the best way I can put it. So I felt like Gallade was a very, very underrated Pokemon, and I needed a strong fighting type as well because it's just always good to have a strong fighting type on your team, because they typically have good coverage and they typically are able to punch holes through opponents' teams. Next up, we picked up Espeon, another psychic type. So you'll see that I have a few of duplicate typings, but again, they do different things. So I don't really get behind the notion of doubling up on typings is bad. Obviously, you need to make sure that your weaknesses are in check, but I don't really think that Espeon and Gallade overlap or cause me any problems whatsoever. Espeon has a really good speed tier at 110 as well, which is something that I needed because at the moment I had a huge speed gap between Iron Bundle and Dragonite. So, and Dragonite and Gallade, they both hit 80. So I needed something in between there. And I feel like Espeon, I think it was like 6 points. So it's pretty good value, like, right? Like it has Magic Bounce, it has 130 special attack, it has decent coverage, good speed, setup options and Calm Mind and stuff like that. So for 6 points, I felt like Espeon was a very nice mon and a very nice fit on the team, essentially for the speed tier, because that was looking a little bit weird at the time and there wasn't really many good options down in like the 6 to 7, 8 point mons that would really fit that speed tier. So Espeon is definitely something that I am happy with, very, very happy with. Colossal is a personal favorite of mine in Draft League. You look at it and you see that it has a 4 times weakness to water and a 4 times weakness to ground. But outside of that, it's just so difficult to kill this thing, right? And you can obviously see a water or a ground move coming from miles away. There's always ways to sort of like patch that as well. You can run Air Balloon, you can run a Pastral Berry, stuff like that. And I just feel like Colossal with Rocks, Spikes, Flame Body is a really good ability. Rapid Spin, really, really nice as well. It has good defenses on both sides, which means any sort of like neutral hit is going to have a hard time at 2-hit KOing this thing. Flutter Mane is banned here, but in a mock battle that I did, I used Colossal to check a Flutter Mane, and it worked perfectly well because Colossal is just so fat on both sides that I think that really sort of like mitigates the fact that it has a 4 times weakness to water and ground, which are 2 very super common typings, right? Like a lot of things learn Earthquake, not Scald, because Scald is out of the game, thank God. But you know, it's kind of predictable to know when a water or a ground type move are going to be coming. So I felt like Colossal was really, really nice here. And I'm just a huge fan of Flame Body and just punishing people, just clicking U-turn and flip turns and stuff like that. So I'm really happy with the Colossal pick. Last 2 picks, 2 not fully evolved mons. That is right, Ursaring can run Eviolite, and that is to me so insane. This thing has 130 base attack, has a decent HP stat as well, decent defenses. So if you pop an Eviolite on top of that, not only is this thing really hard to kill if you're not hitting with the fighting type move, but it's also going to be hitting you extremely hard coming off of that base 130 attack. So the fact that this thing can use an Eviolite is really cool. I always like to have a normal type on my team because it only has 1 weakness. Ghost is one of the best offensive typings in the game, at least it was last gen. Kind of feel like it still might be, but having a good normal type just allows your team to not be so weak to ghost types, and it's just a good sort of general defensive typing because not really many things can hit it super effectively. Knockoff isn't as prevalent, obviously, so which means Eviolite mines are just so much better. So I feel like I'm super happy with Ursaring as my low tier normal type. I feel like 130 base attack coming off something that has an Eviolite that just won't die. Really cool. Our last pick here is a Haunter, and I've used Haunter before in a Draft League, and this thing really is a mini Gengar. Like, obviously it doesn't have the insane speed stat that Gengar has, but it has a very respectable 115 special attack. That's only 15 less than Gengar, which means it can hit almost as hard as Gengar. With it being a non-fully evolved mon, this isn't really something that you want to run Eviolite on, so you definitely get away with like a Choice Scarf, Choice Specs, Life Orb, anything like that. And a buff that it got this gen that it didn't have last gen, unless I'm incorrect, but I don't think so because I used Haunter and I don't think it had Focus Blast. And this gen it does have Focus Blast. So the coverage of Shadow Ball, Sludge Wave, and Focus Blast, that is really difficult for teams to switch into. So for 2 points, a Haunter that complements the speed tiers that I needed is a decent wall breaker and just generally a mon that people aren't really going to prep for. If it shows up, and it will show up because like I said, I've used Haunter before and I know how strong it can be. I am very happy with this pick for 2 points. Again, insane value. And I think overall this draft isn't as like top heavy as some other teams might be, because we have teams that are very top heavy that are very strong, because I think you only needed to draft a minimum of 9 mons. So some people decided to go with that, you know, more top heavy, but I feel like our team is just filled with good value Pokemon. Like Dragonite is our terrestrializing captain. Obviously, we got a normal and flying type Dragonite, which is super, super strong. We had to pay a little bit more for Dragonite because of that, but I feel like it's totally worth it. Arn Bundle, insane wall breaker, and then after that, I feel like there's just a lot of good value picks. Azu for 12 points is insane. Gallade for 7 points is very good. Haunter for 2 points is very good. So I just feel like in general, the team on paper might not look as threatening as other teams because we don't have as many top tier mons, but overall I feel like it's a very, very balanced team where any mon can really come to any given battle. And I feel like that is such an undervalued thing in Draft League, because typically if you draft 11 mons but your 11th mon is a 1-point mon, you essentially drafted 10, right? Because you're never really bringing that. But having a roster where any mon can come to any given matchup, I think is very, very undervalued. So this is a team that we're going to be using for the D-League. I don't really think I'm going to be making any trades because I just like this team so much. So hopefully we're able to do good in this season. My main objective, I'm going to be 100% honest, is to make the best content possible. If we win, obviously that's even better. I would love to win, but I'm just going to focus on making the best content possible, bringing you guys the best battles possible. That's something that we're going to focus on doing this season. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you stick around to see how we do this season of the BBR D-League. And yeah, let me know anything you would change on this team, your general thoughts, and or just leave a like and just comment yes. If you made it this far, just comment yes, and I'll know. Anyways, I'm rambling at this point. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.